Is this nutter coming on just making us get up and dance? Did anyone feel like a bit embarrassed? No, that's good. Did anyone actually think, do I want to get up and dance? Did anyone question it, or did they just go, yeah, oh, he's just told me to dance, so I'll just get up and do it? Is that unusual audience? Well, I do this at festivals quite a lot. Yeah. Fair enough. Whatever happened, all of it is welcome because all of it is human. So just before we get into the talk, I'm just going to introduce myself. My name's Adam Slawson. I'm a self-mastery coach, motivational speaker, and I'm a founder of an organization called Plight Club. And that is a community which is united by vulnerability and fueled by freedom. It's a clothing brand. So what I do in my day job, I help people go into their parental and social conditioning so that they can learn to live a life that is meant for them rather than the one that they've been programmed into. Okay? And so a massive part of that is understanding the law of vibration. And when we do that, we raise our frequency. Okay? And today, in this talk, which I'm going to, obviously we're going to have now, I'm going to convince you that you are an energetic being, and all you need to do is concentrate on how you feel every single day, and your life will manifest perfectly. Okay? Right, so we're here. So, according to the CIA, 2% of people can respond to life. 98% of people are stuck reacting to life. Right? Therefore, 2% of people are the master of their own destiny. 98% of people are victim of history. 2% of people are master of their own destiny. 98% of people are victim of their own history. Do you want to know what the 2% know? Yes. Do you want to know what the 2% know? Yes. Okay, so it is the key to an abundant life. In health, in time, money, freedom, in your career, in your relationship, this 2%, this understanding this is the absolute key. So raise your hands if you want to do that. Okay, now raise them a little bit higher. Right, why didn't you raise them that high in the first place? Why don't you make that, if you're not, just here's the rub, contemplate that you're not making that much effort in your day-to-day life. Okay? Right, so you're in the right place though if you want to know what the 2% know, because that's why the freak experience exists. So, raising your vibration. We're going to do this in two ways. Part one, this bit, is going to be some science and tools. Right, we need that because our ego needs to know this stuff, otherwise it won't relax and won't allow you to feel stuff. And in part two is a mosh pit, which is a rage rave. And rage stands for radical access to greater energy. Right? And this talk is to essentially convince you enough of the science to go, fuck yeah, I want to do that. Which you will, hopefully. You can just do that as well if you want also. Okay, so this talk, right, you'll begin to understand as we go through it that it's not just a talk, it's a turning point. You and I have manifested each other into our realities based on science and quantum physics. And for you to now, you've raised your consciousness enough to a point where you can receive this information. If you hadn't done that, you wouldn't be here. Loads of people aren't here, no judgment, but they're not. Right, and now you've got to the point where you are. So you've got an opportunity here to absorb this information, take it on board, go out into the rest of your life and become a master of your own destiny. So I'm going to ask you again one more time, and I want to hear it loud and proud. Are you ready to get your freak on? Yeah! There it is. Are you ready to get your freak on? Come on, one more time. Yes. Right. So hearing that, it makes me, I've got tingles all over, which is awesome, right? So what we're not taught at school, this is the thing that pisses me off, that we're not taught this at school, is the only thing we need to concentrate on is how we feel. That is what dictates our frequency, that is what dictates our vibration, and that is what dictates our reality. Okay, and so I'm going to just read out something. I'm going to have to look at it. Does anyone know Joe Dispenza's work? Yay. Okay, so this is one thing he said. The only way we can change our lives is to change our energy, to change the electromagnetic field that we are constantly broadcasting. In other words, to change our state of being, we have to change how we think and how we feel. Okay? Also, another smart guy, Einstein, was meant to say something similar. Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of that reality that you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. This is not philosophy, it is physics. And there's a guy called David Hawkins, Dr. David Hawkins, who has mapped consciousness, and there's different, every emotion has a different frequency to it, which we'll get onto more and more. The lower frequencies like shame, guilt, etc., all programmed into us, every single one. Right? And if you want to change your reality of more love, freedom, and all that kind of thing, all you have to do is process the stuff that's been programmed into you through behavior change. Okay? With me so far? Yeah. Right, so as Joe, Albert, and David all say, the reality that you want, the reality where you're free to be however you want, whoever you want, the one that you are here to deliver, to be in this incarnation, already is. It already exists. All you have to do is align your frequency to it. And as Albert Einstein says, you cannot help get that. It's easy to say, but it's actually quite hard to do. Otherwise, why wouldn't we fucking just do it, right? It will put me out of a job. Okay, so think of a baby. When a baby's born, they are perfectly manifesting their reality, right? Just let that sink in. They are perfectly manifesting their reality. Because what happens when a baby is upset? Just give away the answer. They cry, right? When they're angry, they cry. When they're happy, they giggle, right? And then if the parents are certainly mature enough with their emotions, they come and tend to the baby, right? Often if a baby cries and they don't get that, that's the parental and social conditioning happening, right? In a perfect world, and obviously we don't live in a perfect world, but if we did, every single baby would get every single perfectly parenting thing, and no one would get parental and social conditioning, and then the divine and or the Tao, or whichever word you want to use, would just flow perfectly. But that's not how it is, right? Thing called generational trauma. Have we heard of that? Okay. So the aim of this talk and the aim of the next part is to enable you to feel more. That's it, right? But the thing that we need to do to be able to feel more is to be able to feel safe enough to do that, right? So cool. To master. So when the universe makes a noise like that out of the blue, it says it's a sign to listen. So if you're ever out in countryside or anything like that, and a weird rant, even it's like you're talking shit, so shut up, or it's a sign to listen. So okay, right. So to connect with your emotions, to master them, to enable you to feel, right? Because the one thing that the 2% of people know and why they're responding instead of reacting, that is the key. To be able to respond to your emotions as opposed to reactions. Yeah? If you would do that, if you can do that, and you master how to do that, that abundant life, both in relationships, in career, in time, money, freedom, in health and well-being, will appear. 100% will appear. You just have to learn how to respond to your emotions, right? That's what the 2% are doing. There is a lot in this talk, what is about to happen. So I'm going to ask you, I can't actually see your faces, so it's very weird. I can't see whether you're smiling or what, so we'll go with it. Smiling, good, nice. That's excellent. So, very interesting faces, brilliant. Right, so strap in, right? So last time, I'm going to ask you, this is just to get your attention, to move the energy through your body. One last time, are you ready to get your freak on? Yeah! Right, there it is. Let's go. Right, let's start with some definitions. Law of attraction, right? Pretty simple. What you attract is what you put out is what you attract. Simple. The thing that dictates that is the law of vibration. And the law of vibration, as Joe Dispenza says, is like essentially if you align your thoughts, words, and actions, your vibration aligns, and that is what attracts your reality towards you, right? So, but how do we do that? Like it's easy, like, oh yeah, great, Joe, thanks. But it's actually quite hard to do, right? So what I'm going to do in the next half an hour or so is give you some tools and tips of actually what are the practical things you can do to do that, right? So first and foremost is the way we do it. So listen, every time that blender goes, it means listen, right? So in our conversations in life and our conversations with life. So let me explain, right? In the conversations in life, does everyone know there's 3 stages to any conversation? Okay. There's relationship, possibility, and action. Okay, the first run of that, relationship, okay, is the trust building. Like I know, a lot of people go straight to action. I want this, and it's like, well, it's a bit intense. But they forget about building the relationship. And say, once you've got trust, you can move into possibility, and then you can possibly go into action. If you try and miss any of the 2 first layers and jump to action, it's often very jarring, and people are like, no, that's not cool, right? But the same is true in our conversations with life itself, right? With life itself, the method that I use is called the LAM method, which is liberate plus acceptance equals magnetism. And I will get onto that more as we go. But liberate means just pay attention, noticing what you're noticing. Because we don't raise our level of consciousness, we raise our level of self-awareness, right? We don't raise our level of consciousness, we raise our level of self-awareness. So liberate, pay attention more, notice what you're noticing, right? Acceptance, just accept the energy of the emotions, right? And speaking for a man, as a man that I am, that's like I'm conditioned out of feeling from birth pretty much. And that's quite difficult. So all we need to do is be able to slow down and allow ourselves to actually feel what we need to feel. That takes out the blockages, which I'll get onto. So the 3 stages of this talk. Number 1 is going to be some encouragement to face your emotions, because that can be quite difficult at times. 2, why embracing them is so important and how it will help you align to that abundant life. And then part 3 is, or part 2 actually, is Emotion Pit, the Rage Rave, where we're going to do a physical embodiment of everything you learn in this talk. Sound good? Okay. Right, so I just want everyone close your eyes for a second. Put your hands up if you're human. That's good. Right, so humans can only remember 3, you can open your eyes again. Humans can only remember 3 things. So don't try to remember anything I say, which is unusual in a talk, right? Right? You will remember exactly what you need to know. 100%. If you try and remember it, it's more difficult. Okay, so there's 3 things that humans, that's how we can remember. And I will ask at the end or throughout, and I will do summaries of each section, because as I said, there's quite a lot in it, right? Does anyone know what this is? Yeah, what? Say it again. Shout it. Someone shout. Say what you say. Shout it. Right. It's a black belt. It's a black belt, right? Does anyone have a guess how I got it? Apart from practice. I didn't nick it. eBay, yes. So it's pretty hard to get. So the 2 reasons. There's 2 main reasons. And the first one is the biggest one, which is anxiety. I got a black belt because of anxiety. Who else? Anyone else suffer or used to suffer from anxiety? And here and there. Any overthinkers in the house? Any people pleasers? Okay, yes. Right, so anxiety, although it feels shit, it is your absolute best friend. And I will convince you of that by the end of this talk. Right, it is your absolute best friend. It feels fucking awful. Right, excuse me, sorry for the kids, if there are any kids in here, but I swear a bit, but hey ho. Right, yeah, it feels awful, but it is as I said, it is your best friend, which we'll get onto. So stay tuned for the game changer. Right, I need an example. I need a person to give the example. So the next reason I have a black belt is boundaries. Anyone care to stand up and help me with this? She was very quick. Oh, you were very quick and you made a squeak, so come on. What's your name? Sorry? Kath. Welcome, Kath. Right, so Kath, just stand in kickboxing. This is roughly the boxing stance. Just face me and take a step 1 step forward with your left. That's it. Oh, this way, so we're in front of the camera. Come this way. So like this, right? So I'm going to represent life coming at you, right? So my fist is going to represent, I'm going to punch you. I'm not going to punch you, don't worry. So I'm going to push you on the shoulder, right? So this is life coming at you, generally, right? What do you tend to do if life comes at you?
Well, if it's painful.
Not if it's painful, but just generally. Life in work, things like you punch back or push back, right? Yeah, okay. All right, so that's what happens, right? So now do the same thing to me. This is how I got a black belt, and this is how I transform people's lives. It's simply that. Learning how to take a step back and distance yourself. That's it. That was the demonstration. Thank you. Right. Learning how to take a step back from our emotions is actually quite hard because they're inside our body, right? It is really hard. But who feels that they could do with a bit better boundaries? Is everyone perfectly boundaried here? Come on. Right, yeah, everyone could do with a bit better boundaries at times. But yeah, it's all the things like the overthinking, the people pleasing, programmed behavior, trying to protect us from feeling stuff that we haven't been able to feel. That's all it is. All of those behaviors are those things. Okay? So I just want to let that land. All of those things are programmed behaviors. And if they're learned, they can be unlearned. 100%. Okay, so it's perpetuating those behaviors is what keeps your vibration stuck. And David Hawkins, as he says, it's like the vibrational scale essentially obviously goes up, and then the lower half is like shame, fear, and guilt is all down here. All of those things are programmed into us. If you actually allow yourself to feel them, they leave, and what happens is your vibration raises. It's it, that's it. But it's dead hard, it's really hard to do, really, really hard to do. Right, so this is quite big. What I've just done, I've just opened up a can of worms. How's it land? Will we there? Thumbs up, thumbs up, excellent. Can't see faces, so thumbs up's good. Right, so one of the things you can do, and this is from a trauma-informed point of view, I'm not going to ask you to do this now. So please don't do this now, because it's a thing that I ask all my clients to do at the beginning, which is called a conditioning list. So what it is essentially I want you to remember everything in your life and write it down, right? Anything you feel that is of significance, right? Just say top 10 things, right? Because if you can remember it, there's an emotion attached to it. That's it. If you can still remember something from the past, it's not processed. In short. Like there's loads more to it than that, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but in short, that's where we're at. So let me explain. So imagine you went to a supermarket 3 months ago. You just got your food, nothing happened. You don't remember it, right? But if you got punched in the face or you met the love of your life, You'd remember it because there was an emotion attached to it. Like that is exactly how it is with our emotions and our thoughts, and that's how our body operates. Right, so that's part one of the talk done. Okay, so that is how our emotions operate, and so now I want to give you some encouragement to face them. But in order to do that, we have to have a stable data, and imagine at festivals like this, someone will answer this question immediately. What are emotions? Bingo, right? So yes, a lot of the times I've done this talk before, people are like feelings, things like, which is fine, which they are too, but energy, emotion, because we're a bunch of hippies and we all know that, right? So, but the energy in motion, right? And so John Bradshaw said that originally, and emotions are a form of energy in motion. The word emotion itself comes from immovere, which in Latin, which means just to move out, move through, or just move. Okay, and so now this gets a bit sciencey, so stick with me. And I will do a summary and I will ask some questions. But the first law of thermodynamics states that the energy in the universe is constant. It cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. Therefore, we emotionally react and people please, overthink, feel out of control where the energy of our emotions doesn't or can't move. That's it. That is the only reason, right? And that vibration it's fucking intense, right? It's really hard. Like I used to have full-blown anxiety attacks, and the worst one I ever had, I didn't sleep for 3 weeks. I slept like 2 hours a night for 3 weeks. I lost 7 kilos of weight, and I even turned this weird shade of grey. And the whole thing lasted about 6 months. It was horrible, right? So I've been in the trenches, but now I don't even identify as suffering from anxiety anymore because I know actually what it is, right? And so how did I transform my life? Is taking that analogy from kickboxing back, is learning to step back from my emotions inside my body. But how do we do that? Have you heard this phrase, which is you cannot be what you observe? So if you can see it, you're not it, essentially. Right? I'm not you because I can see you, short of it. But if you, as soon as, anyone gone like, oh, I've been really, and like, they're really angry, and then half an hour or maybe a week later, they come out and it's like, oh shit, I was really angry back then. Okay, but as soon as you notice that you're angry, you're no longer angry. Therefore, you have a choice. Okay, as soon as you notice that you're happy, you're no longer happy. Sorry?
I was going to say, like, either you react or you respond to it.
Yes.
You can react really angry, but when you respond, you can step back. And like you said, being aware of it.
Exactly, and that's what the 2% of people know, right? It's responding, so noticing what you're noticing, because that creates more choice. Right, so thought experiment. If you're ever in a difficult situation, your thoughts are reeling or whatever, and this helps to glitch the matrix and break the thought cycle. Just say to yourself in your, we can say it out loud if you want, but say it in your head. Wonder what my next thought's going to be. What happens? Sorry? It goes blank, right? Your mind goes blank for a second. Yeah. Now another thing. Say the word in your head. Say the word happiness. Right? So you've just said something without and heard something without moving your lips or using your ears. So there's something listening, right? You're not you. You're not you. There's an awareness of you, and this is your avatar, and your avatar connects with the world around you through your 5 senses, and extending the choice gap between the thing that triggers you, i.e. your emotional or your feeling in your body, and your response to that is what the 2% know, and it takes training to do that and discipline, right? But if you do that and you act on that, it's like lifting weights for your emotions, right? Initially, it's difficult, but it's like you fall off the horse, you get back on, you keep having to put yourself on, and that's what discipline's about. But is anyone here a marathon runner? No, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. You've done it, right? But so you people could probably get up now and run a marathon. Fair enough. But most people can't just go, fucking great, I'm going to go and run a marathon. You have to train for it. Yeah? And so imagine those that are marathon runners, you did some training, right? I'm sure you did. Yes. Exactly the same principle. You don't become a Zen without doing some sort of training. And that's what this is about, right? And so what I want to do is encourage you, and there's 2 limiting beliefs which really hold people back, right? One is thoughts are not real, they do not exist. There is no such thing as a positive or negative thought. We just think there is. Yeah? Still with me? Yeah? We just think there is, right? So our body has about 90,000 thoughts a day, roughly. They just pop up like a bubble machine. Okay, and to illustrate this, so imagine, when you were a kid and someone said to you, there's a stove that said, don't touch that, it's hot. Right? At some point, what happened? You touched the stove, yeah? What happened? You physically burned. You go, oh, fuck, that's hot. And what do you learn? You physically learn, if I touch hot things, I get burned, so I stop touching hot things. Or I should listen to my mum and dad, most likely. Okay? But if you imagine a thought, whether it's positive or negative, in your mind as a hot stove, what we do, and I used to do this, I branded myself essentially, I got paid quite a lot of money to be a problem solver. But if the problem's inside your mind, it's like touching the stove over and over again, and it just keeps you trapped. You keep going there, and that is what creates the feeling of anxiety. So you have to find a way to break the thought loop. Meditation is obviously very good for that. Okay, so anyone been kept up overnight thinking? Yes, you people, some very saintly people here. Also, what about this dreaded sentence? What will they think? Anyone thought that? Yeah, that sentence can fuck off. Right. So when I was at, I used to be a managing consultant for my sins years ago, and I was a bit of a rebellious one. Obviously, the tattoos and stuff don't really fit with the management consultant kind of way of being. But there's one point where I had this, and this is a tool that you can use day to day. It's like finding little things that scare the shit out of you. So I had this pair of leopard print shoes, which I absolutely loved, which stayed in the box for probably about 4 years because I didn't have the nerve to wear them. Then one day I was just like, right, I'm going to wear these shoes. And I stood in front of the mirror for about half an hour. I was just like, should I go? Should I go? Should I? These don't look like shoes a management consultant would wear. So I was like, okay. So I was like, right, fuck it. Bang, walked out the door, walked out into the street. And I was like, oh God, I can't change my shoes now. I can't do this. Panic. Literal panic attack on the street because I was wearing some shoes, which is ridiculous, of course, but it happened. Then I got to work and everyone's like, fuck, I don't like your shoes. They're great. They're wicked. I love them. Either they were taking a piss or they actually liked the shoes. But long story short is there was a fear there. It's only shoes, so it doesn't really matter. But there was a fear there nonetheless. And by actually having an active practice, which I did, and I went out and did the thing, faced the fear, I undid one of the parts of my parental social conditioning. Okay? So when you get caught overthinking, what does it feel like? Someone give me some sort of reference.
It feels very dense, like I don't feel soft and expansive and like fluid. When I'm overthinking, like vision is very, my internal vision is quite narrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only way out of it, well, I do
Yes, perfect. Thank you. That's almost essentially the perfect answer. Does anyone feel similar to that? Like they know that feeling, right? That's your ego doing its job of protecting you, right? Because your ego, in that moment, you go into fight and flight, and you're supposed to narrow your focus. Either your energy goes to your limbs, and that's why and so it's either to run away, fight, or fawn, right? And so your focus literally becomes very narrow. And if there's not a threat on the external, your ego does a wonderful job and turns inside and goes, right, I'll try and narrow focus onto one thing inside my head. And that is like touching the stove over and over and over and over again. But all we need to do to raise our vibration, raise our frequency, is undo that programming, which I'll get onto. The second limiting belief, right? All emotions, every single one, are equally important as each other. None is better than the other. They are all just energy that wants to move. Okay, this was the key. This is the thing that I speak passionately about this because it absolutely, essentially saved my life. That sounds dramatic, but the quality of my life for sure. Right? When I stopped judging my emotions, there's a lovely book called Existential Kink. Has anyone heard that book? But it's a really powerful book. And the kink bit of it is essentially when you feel something, one of the negative emotions, I do that because there's no such thing as negative. Anyway. So when you feel a negative emotion, the idea is go and hit me hard as shame. I want more shame, not less. Because most people go, I don't want to feel shame because it's an uncomfortable feeling. But if you want to be free of it, as per David Hawkins says, you want to let go of it. Therefore, you have to feel it. If life deals it, you feel it and you heal it. Okay? Because our inner critics are loud and their overthinking happens simply because there's some trapped emotion in your body from your past. There's different areas for different emotions. I don't know all of them off the top of my heart, but the fear belt is across the chest. The area, your groin area and your hips is often where shame and guilt is trapped. And so if you want to be free of it, that's what you need to do. And I want to give you an analogy, which I use a lot, which is if you imagine, well, I'm the only person that traveled the world with a hose pipe, which is odd, right? If you imagine that your body is a hose pipe, right? This is your body. And the water coming through this hose pipe is your emotions. And the thing going all the way back to the tap is the history of your life. When you're a baby, your hose pipe's about that big, right? And so there's been no kinks in your emotional hose pipe yet. There's been no parental and social conditioning as happened yet. So the water flows through really easily when you're, as we've said, when you're happy, you giggle. When you're sad, you cry, right? So speaking from my life, through my experience, when I was 1, I fell down the stairs and I thought I was abandoned. It took me a long time and a lot of work to be able to dig that out of my subconscious, but it did. When I was 6, I got bullied. When I was 7, I got bullied. When I was 14, I got abandoned by my friends all overnight. When I was 17, I got into a fight and they hit me first and then I almost killed somebody. I'm not proud of that, but I'll perhaps explain it more later. But then what happened is essentially lots of kinks in my emotional hose pipe. And so for me and for a lot of people, fear of abandonment and control are massive triggers, right? And they also go back to primal times. It's like if you got abandoned by the tribe, fear of abandonment, and if you lost control, you wouldn't know where the food was coming from. And so they get exacerbated through our life, obviously when we're small children, and each of those is the condition it's going in. And so when something happens, the way the body works is like, okay, something's happened when I was 1, that looks scary. Okay, I'll make a note of it, pop it in somewhere in my body, so that when that happens again, we'll press F2 on the keyboard and activate that program, and it will just keep cycling over and over and over again. And all anxiety is pressure building up at one of the kinks. That's it. Right? There are chemical imbalances, possibly, but that's a tiny part of it. But in general, there is if anxiety happens, it's your inner child going, please listen to me. Please just slow down and allow me to feel this. That's what's happening. Most people, and I did for a long time, I'll just go kickboxing. That's what I'll do instead. And I'll just ignore it. I'll go and have sex with somebody. I'll go and take loads of drugs. I'll go and drink loads of things and ignore all these things. I partied for all of my 30s was what I just said. It was go out on a Thursday, get drunk. Go out Friday, Saturday, take loads of drugs. Sunday, not feel great. Monday, go kickboxing. Tuesday, do some work. Repeat for 10 years, basically. It was fun. I had a good time overall. A great time. But there was every 3 to 6 months, I would have a massive humdinger bout of anxiety, which was awful, as I've already said. So just to remember, your body is a hose pipe. If you want to be free of it, what we need to do is massage out the emotional kinks, slowly but surely. Right, so everyone get your hand. Do you know this thing about when you get a headache? So find the bit till it hurts, right? So do people like massages? Yeah. General. Do you like it when it hurts? Oh, come on. Really? A little bit. Everyone likes it when it hurts a little bit. Is it just me? Good pain, right? But okay, why do you like it? Why do you like it a little bit? It feels good for you. You like you're releasing something, yeah? It's exactly the same for your energy body. It's like anxiety, when you push through the fear, exactly like I did with my shoes, you push through the fear, it's essentially massaging out the kink in my energy body in the same principle. But if I just walked over to you now and like stuck my elbow in your back, you'd be like, dude, get the fuck, what are you doing? Get off, right? But so if it comes out of the blue, no. But if you're taking steps to do it yourself through the science, what I'm telling you, and having an active practice, your ego goes, oh, okay, it's safe. It's okay to do that. And you're willing to put up with the pain, which is the fear, the anxiety. And that's why I'm so passionate about vulnerability, because it is our ability to look into our wounds. That's literally what it means. And there's a phrase by a philosopher, modern day philosopher that I'm a fan of, Peter Crone, if you've heard of him, right? He says that the real darkness isn't the darkness. The real darkness is the resistance to the darkness. Okay, so it's the resistance to feeling the kinks in your emotional hose pipe that causes all the problems. So I'm going to give you another analogy to help this land even further. And this is, in essence, in short, what I help people with. Right, if you imagine the world that we're looking at, and we're all hippies here, so it's all energy, it's all God, Brahman, spirit, the Force in Star Wars. Doesn't matter what word you use. There's something that is underneath everything, right? The reality that we think the reality that we're looking at, i.e., the Matrix, that bit's an illusion. Underneath it is really reality. Okay, that's the quantum field, and I'm not going to go into too much of the science of it, right? But imagine that imagine all of that is an ocean. In that ocean, I'm a wave, you're a wave, we're all waves, this table's a wave, we're all made of the same thing, yeah? If you don't process your parental and social conditioning and you react to things, that's like getting tossed about by the waves of the ocean. But for every single kink you take out the hose pipe, it's like dropping further into the ocean, deeper into the ocean. And if you get down to, what happens if you get to the bottom of the ocean? Is it still or is it chaotic down at the bottom of the ocean? It's peaceful, okay? So if a hurricane kicks off at the top and you're right at the bottom of the ocean, you wouldn't feel it. And it's the same, exactly the same principle for life, right? So imagine if in your current history, you hypothetically had 100 kinks in your emotional host pipe, just for argument. There's thousands. There's way more than that, right? As you go each day, that means if you've got 100 things in your past that are not processed, every single day, every second of every single day, your subconscious is looking at 100 times to try and find the answer to that question. It's called closing quantum loops. It's what it's trying to do at all times. It burns a lot of energy, right? So whether you believe it or not, and hopefully you do after this talk, your life literally depends on whether you process your conditioning from the past. If you want a longer life, go sort out the past, right? Because if you're burning more energy in the present, you're going to die sooner. Simple as that, right? But what happens is when you imagine you go from 100 things to 50 to 10, right? You get to a point where it's like, oh, I'm not really thinking about the future very much. I'm not thinking about the past very much because you process loads of stuff, right? And that becomes you become very present. It's like being at the depths of the ocean. So remember, right? And this is where it gets a bit, yeah, we'll see. You're not, your emotions and your thoughts, they're not yours. They're currents in the ocean, right? So you, all these different people in this room have been perfectly designed to have the thoughts that you have had. I have never had one of your thoughts, ever. I've had like those that identify as men in the space have probably had similar thoughts, but I've never had the same thoughts. I've got no idea what it's like to be in a female body, ever. I'm never going to know that, right? But I know what it's like to be a human, and I do know to have that experience, and I can identify with that, okay? And but as we have a human experience and also have an emotional experience, there's two things that are happening, right? As we define ourselves, I go, I'm a man, I'm British, etc., etc. Each time I do that, I have to face into the fear of rejection. Yeah, but the freedom lies in going the other way, which is I also identify as a human, identify as energy. And so as you start to navigate the world through, okay, what's happening with my energy, and is it free? Is it flowing through my hose pipe or not? Yes or no? That is what starts to change your frequency and starts to change your reality. Are you with me so far? Okay, so to summarize that section, anyone care to shout out something that they remember? It's not a test, so don't worry. Excellent, thank you. That's one thing. Anyone else care to shout out something? Does anyone feel a bit nervous about shouting something out? That's your conditioning happening right now. Excellent. Anyone else? If you live longer, essentially. Okay, one more. You've got a kinky hose pipe. Good. Most people do remember that. Me too. So yeah, thoughts aren't real. Emotions are all equal. And if you want to raise your vibration, you've got to sort out the conditioning from the past, right? So now that I've given some information, obviously, of what emotions are and all these kind of things, I now want to give you even more encouragement to face them and why it's so important to do so. Right? Again, think of that baby. Right? When you're a baby, you don't have any fear. And there's also a phrase with babies, oh, they're little bundles of love. Obviously, they can be difficult at times, right? Because they literally are love. Before the age of like 1, I think it is, they don't even know that they're separate from the universe, right? So the most spiritual beings on the planet are children, because the energy of their emotions can move through them more freely, and they're not in their ego as yet, etc., etc. They are at one with the universe, let's say. Okay, and this phrase that I use a lot is, for every fear that goes, the trust grows. Right? So for every fear that goes, i.e. programmed into you in your emotional past, you're not thinking about the future so much, so you trust more and more, and you can step into and let go into, this is what David Hawkins' work's about in the book Letting Go, highly recommend reading that. You can step more and more and trust that the universe will provide for you exactly the same way as it provides for a baby, but as your adult, and as you've been perfectly designed to create and bring something into reality, whatever it might be, the universe will help you do that, right? But it just takes getting your brain out and get your ego out of the way. So anyone in male bodies, what emotions do you kind of perhaps struggle with expressing? Anyone in male bodies scared to shout that out? Or, that's it. Well, but that's what we'll do. We can do. And we'll come on to those in female bodies next. But male bodies, anyone sad? Like speaking, I don't want to speak for all my people. Sadness for me. express. So that's a fear? Fear? Any men suffer from like not being able to express sadness that much? Was it just me? But anyway, any man heard the phrase? Any man heard the phrase like "big boys don't cry"? Right, that one. That is the classic thing. That is, if you are saying that to your kids, please stop, because you're literally putting them into a prison. And for those in female bodies, good girls should be seen and not heard. Have you heard that? So a lot of people, women. I'm just going to use men and women, because I find it difficult to say those in female bodies, those in male bodies. But if that offends anyone, please come to me afterwards and correct me. That's totally fine. I'm open for that. But when that happens, it puts us into obviously a state of fight and flight, and so we squash ourselves and make ourselves small if that is in female bodies. But male bodies, because the sadness can't come out in the way it's meant to come out, which is through the motion, which is like it can't, so it comes out in another way generally, which is anger. It has to go somewhere. Remember, right at the beginning, I said, the universe, the energy in the universe cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. So it has to go somewhere. So for a man that can't express sadness, or for a woman that can't express anger, it often comes out in tears for women, and it comes out in anger for men. Generalization, but it's often true. Okay. So unlearning that conditioning is vitally important if we want to have that abundant life, right? And so extending the choice gap, as I mentioned, is what we need to do. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So good question, and thank you for bringing that in. It's like you planted you. So my theory, and having done a fair amount of reading on this, is right. So when we talk about emotion, right, energy in motion, most people attach feelings to the motion part of things, and the motion part of things is when you cry, you go, there's emotion to it. When you're angry, there's emotion to it. Emotion, not emotion. There's a motion to it, right? And so if there's a vibration of anger that needs to leave your body, it needs to leave your body in a way of shouting, punching, kicking, right? And if you are sad, it needs to leave your body in the form of right? But if you're sad and you get angry instead, it never actually fully leaves your body. Like there's a bit of residue, if you want to use that phrase. So training your body to, and that's what the second part of this thing's about, is the rage rave, which will help you do that. It enables you to actually get to the root cause and feel what needs to be felt. Okay, so when you're crying, you're not actually feeling. When you're angry, you're not actually feeling. You feel just before. Okay, the crying is, there's too much energy in my body, so I need to get rid of it. Your body's like an engine. It works very well, and it will balance things. If there's too much of an energy, it's like, okay, I need to cry this out, or I need to anger it out. Okay, but just before it is when you feel. So my guidance, as much as you possibly can, is just before you feel like crying, try and sit in that discomfort for as long as you will cry, of course, eventually, but sit in that discomfort for as long as you can, because that is like stretching your hose pipe. Literally, it's like stretching your hose pipe, right? And so, because when life deals it, you feel it, which is, i.e., what I just said, you actually heal it. Yeah, I'm not saying to fest. So think of it. If you go into the gym, no, yes and no. So if you go to the gym, you don't stay lifting weights forever. You lift weights for a bit in the gym, and then you go home, right? So what I'm asking you to do is, in the middle bit, is like going to the gym for your emotions, is to sit in with it and let it fester for slightly longer than you do, to enable your body, and this is what existential kink is talking about, to allow you to take the fear out of feeling that emotion. Right? Because when you take the fear out of it, your body will actually allow you to properly feel it, and then it goes. But most people don't, like, they don't, I don't want to let it fester, but it's not, you're not letting it fester, you're stretching your hose pipe and doing it kind of working out. Does that make sense? Anyone else got any points on that?
No, I just want to say you're not suppressing, you're just holding.
You're holding, yeah.
Yeah.
And what you'll notice eventually is you'll get to a point where you can feel anger ripping through your body, and you don't want to. It doesn't. You're not scared of it. Like when I got into that fight, however many years ago, I was 17, so whatever, 28 years ago. For 20 years, I'll come to you in a sec, one sec. For 20 years, I didn't get angry, not once. Like I went to kickboxing, and I was petrified of my anger. absolutely petrified. And so what I would do is like, that's what caused a lot of my anxiety. But I got to a point where I did lots of anger practice, do these things, and now I don't fear. You'll see quite a different side to me when we do the emotion bit and the rage rave. And but through practices like this, and that the DJ's just arrived, which is great. Still, it helps people take the fear out of it, of their emotion. So I'm very passionate about different genders seeing the other genders in anger situations, because a lot of women are scared when men get angry, and a lot of men are scared when they see a woman being emotional, which doesn't help at all, does it? Right? And so that space, if you come to the rave, will massively help you. You had a question. I can't see your face, but
yeah. So basically, observing the amount of time before you react.
yes, yeah,
You're spending more time in that moment.
yeah,
To observe it.
yeah. So that is like literally weight training for your emotions. If you can't say literally weight training for your emotions, but you're stretching your capacity at that point. And it's just how much fear you can hold, basically. The more, and you can do this day to day, right? And that's my partner Jess, scared of spiders, or used to petrified of spiders. And so through essentially through exposure therapy, kind of like, there was a moment when we were in the house, I caught one in a jar, and it was a whopper. My mom, massive. My mom and dad call those Humphreys. It's dead weird. Don't know why they call them the big spiders. It's dead strange. Don't know why they do that. But anyway, one in a jar, and I had it, and she was like, essentially where she is right now. And I was like, come and touch the jar. And she was like, essentially crying. I was like, come on, you can do this. And she came up and she touched the jar. Yeah, and it did it. And it was, I wasn't forcing her to do that, just for the record. And we did it. And it's just the same principle as she stayed in the room where the spider was, and it was in a jar, and so obviously safe in that context. But you used to run out of the rooms, right, initially. Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people that are scared of spiders. So and that's actually a good thing to say right now, is that the life is constantly, all of the time, helping us to do this, all of the time, right? Because it's a mirror. Life is a mirror. It's constantly bringing you people and particles in the form of people and situations as opportunities to be free. So whatever you're looking at is a direct reflection of your past, because the meaning you put to things, it's been programmed into you. Okay, so long and short of it, a spider, every single spider that Jess sees is an absolute gift from God. Absolute gift from God, because it's enabling her to feel the fear, and whenever for every fear that goes, the trust grows. Okay, that makes sense? That's good. Right, so every single time we face a fear, just like Jess did with the spiders, you take a kink out of the emotional hosepipe. Right, and what happens in spiritual communities quite a lot is that people go off to an ayahuasca retreat, done that, or to retreats, maybe at festivals like this. They do a ceremony, and it's like, oh great, I feel enlightened. It's all wicked, right? Because a kink comes out the hosepipe momentarily, but our muscle memory puts it back in. Right? And so what we need to do is slowly but surely take the kink, massage out the kink, so that they stay out. And that the only way to slowly but surely massage them out is change your behaviors day to day. Okay, because for
different choices, basically. Every time you become aware of what's happening, and you make the choice that you wouldn't usually make, like that's what things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's Joe Dispenza, and I'm going to get onto this in a second. Every time you change a different behavior, you literally change timelines. You go into a different reality in quantum physics. Okay, so the less blocks you have, the higher flow you have, the higher vibration you have, and that is literally what tracks a different life to you. So now, another different analogy, think of a dimmer switch on a light bulb. See, the noise is happening again, so pay attention, right? So what happens when you turn the switch up on a light bulb? Dimmer switch. It gets brighter, yeah? So more energy goes through the wire, it gets brighter. Your body is an has an electromagnetic field running around it. So if you wear shoes a lot, take them off. You want to ground the energy as much as you possibly can, because that helps the energy. It immediately grounds you, makes you feel less. But shoes are essentially coffins. So I'm a bit passionate about wearing rubber all the time on your feet, but it transforms your life. If you want to be more chilled, take your shoes off and walk around on them. Unless they're leopard print, keep them on, because they're wicked, right? But what happens if you put more energy through a wire? Yes, it gets brighter. So think of moths coming to a light bulb. That's manifestation. Things come towards you more quickly. Okay, but also what helps with that is it gets hot and slightly magnetic. The heat I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis 7 years ago. I've got no sign of arthritis in my body at all now, because I started processing my emotions. I'm not saying that's the only way to get rid of it, because I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me on that. But I'm living and breathing proof you can get rid of arthritis for sure. Right? And the only reason I had it was because, as I believe, and I did go through quite a few ayahuasca ceremonies, various different things to help with this process. But the energy of my emotions started moving. Essentially heated up my body. That heals it. And then you get slightly magnetic. And that is literally, and I mean literally, pulling particles towards you. You just have to get your head around it, towards you in the form of people and situations to enable you to be free. Because every time we notice it and we feel it, we heal it. And each time we do that, we raise our vibration. Right? So let me explain. I'm going to give you embodiment of this. I'm going to ask you to stand up for this only because I want it to go in. So stand up. I want it all to go in, of course. So you perhaps you've been standing the whole time. But right, so put your hands out like this. And imagine your face, put them hands together, palms together. And imagine you're facing 12 o'clock on a clock face. Right? That's how your life looks now, 12 o'clock on the clock face. So now move your right hand to the right just a tiny bit. Right? That's one behavior change. Right? And imagine if you carried on with those different behaviors, your life would go completely different trajectories, right? Eventually, yeah? Just from one behavior change. So you imagine, you can sit down now. So you imagine that if you're doing it and you keep making the behavior change, it ticks around and you get to 3 o'clock and you're like, I can see my old life. I'm still have to make an effort to make changes in my life, but it's very, very different what I'm looking at. If you keep going with the daily behavioral changes, you get to 6 o'clock and you don't even look, you can't even recognize your old life. Hence me not identifying with suffering from anxiety anymore, because I don't. If anxiety happens, it's like, yes, freedom awaits. And it really is true. And it is just your inner child going, hey, there's something that needs attention. Just slow down and feel it. Because your thoughts and emotions, they are what dictates your frequency. And your personality is dictated by your personal reality is dictated by your personality. If you've got trapped anger happens on the outside. If you've got trapped sadness happens on the outside. It's like if you get rid of those things, you start to get less and less of those things will happen. Your reality on the outside is happening because it's inside. And if you want that to change, you have to change the inside. There's literally no other way to do it. No other way. That is what needs to happen scientifically. Okay? So as I said, I don't identify with suffering from anxiety anymore. It's an alarm bell ringing. And all this does, ultimately, is change you from one thing to another. And the one thing is most people are trying to search for something that's better than where they are. Like something different, searching. Right? But as you start to process your parental and social conditioning, slowly but surely you start to go, oh, I'm just exploring. Quite fun. What happened when a baby one of my friends said the other day, a beautiful quote about her baby. She's like, it's like the baby wakes up in the morning and goes, yay, I've got a body. That's what a baby does, right? And we've all got bodies and they're beautiful. Every single one of us. And they're a tool. It's like when you were born, it's like your soul got into a car, which is that the vehicle is your body. And the way you interact with life around you is through the 5 senses. And it's like every day you have an opportunity to be like, oh, great, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's brilliant. That's fun. And just because you're in a body. But because of our parental and social conditioning, we compare stuff to how it's what's not currently present. And what happens is that we vibrate at a frequency of lack. Right? And if you vibrate at a frequency of lack, you get more lack. That's it. So it becomes so evident that if you're not just great, that's a gratitude practice. Being grateful for exactly how it is now means you're going to get more of abundance because you're vibrating at a frequency of gratitude. Does anyone have a gratitude practice? Are you grateful for the negative, quote unquote, negative stuff? Right. So that's exactly what. So the negative stuff that's happening that's happening in your reality is not happening to you. It's happening for you. Always, 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 always. Right. Summary of that section. Anyone shout out something they remember? Excellent. Still got King K's pipe. We should have a chat after. Anyone else? Yeah, brilliant. The one last person. Yes. And so to summarize even further, those things, but like abundance in different areas of our life. And when I talk about wealth, I don't talk about just money. I mean, ability to relate to people, you're doing a passionate career that you want, you're feeling healthy, etc., etc. But the key to that is one thing: calmness. Calmness. And that doesn't mean don't feel your emotions in any way, shape, or form. It means your ability to respond instead of react to situations. That is what the 2% of people know. It gets really creepy if you go into the science of it, because the CIA have used this for manipulation for years, apparently. It gets a bit like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but that's all conspiracy theorists say that. But it's it's a bit like, okay, and so this 2%, and the 2% of the world are manipulating the 98% of the world because of their ability to respond to their emotions. That's it. It's fucking crazy. You had your hand up. They've used it for interrogation process purposes, like as in, because they know that the energy moving through them is not that, so they don't react, but the person in front of them does, as that way of being, and predicting various different things. One of our friends is an astral projection person, and she knows loads about that, and so that's where I kind of got that fact from. Yeah, life is a mirror, and it's our reactions. Anytime you react, it's like, oh, I've reacted, great, but not great at the same time. It's like, great, I've noticed something. Okay, what? And don't try and search for the answer. Hold it as a question, because as soon as you hold it as a question, what's that about? You stay in potentiality, in possibility, and life and will bring you the answer. As soon as you try and figure it out, you go into the known, and the known is based on your past, and that's based on your conditioning. You stay trapped in the loop. Okay, so every time we face an emotion, it's like taking out the kink in our emotional hosepipe. Because the only reason we're in fear is because we've got trapped emotions from the past, and every time we let one out, it reduces overthinking, and that is what transforms our reality, and that ability to choose to respond to our emotions. So what in essence we need to do, which I don't have a cup, which I should have had, right? Yes. Okay. For sure. Yeah. That's to be held to enable them to feel something in obviously in a trauma-informed environment. They would need to be with someone, a therapist or whatever it is, to take them on the journey to essentially decondition their body to get it to a point where they do, and they would just need a bit more attention in that and time. Like eventually they will be able to feel safe enough. But what a lot of people I feel do is they think that I can only feel or do that when I'm in therapy. But what I'm advocating for people is to try each day, just do one little thing that pushes you edge of your comfort zone. If that is wearing leopard print shoes or wearing a shirt that's different or saying something to somebody that is difficult to say, then do that. And every time you do it, it's like your body goes, your ego goes, oh, it's actually safe to do that. It's okay. And you keep repeating that over and over and over again, and you can become very strong at it. And eventually you'll get enough ability to be able to face into whatever caused PTSD in the first place. But you can't, it's like you can't jump into the deep end of a swimming pool if you can't swim. So you've got to learn to swim first, right? And that's what I would advocate doing. Like in a way, yeah, exposure, but having the discipline to do it yourself in your day-to-day life. Because fear, if you let go of a fear, it's holistic. It's not like specifically, if you let go of a fear about spiders, you let go of fear in general. Okay, it's not about the specific thing. So if what's happening in the present and if it bothers you, it's not the thing in the present that's bothering you. It's the memory from the F2 pressed in the keyboard that is bothering you, and you act it out in the present. And because you don't actually allow yourself to feel it, the loop continues. And as soon as you actually feel it, the loop stops, and then it doesn't happen in your reality. Make sense? So what also will help with that is, right, imagine that inside your body, right, I'm going to slightly different tack. Light is made up of 7 main colors, right? And there's a phrase, shining your light. Everyone heard that phrase? Shine your light, right? So what I believe we need to do is to shine our light is actually to express all of the range of emotions we have, right? There's 7 main emotions. There are more than that. But if you authentically express your emotions, doesn't matter what you're saying, in essence, how you say it's important, but it doesn't matter what you're saying. If you're speaking to someone and you're being authentic, they feel it, right? And this is what one of the things I've noted, particularly with Jess, is like, it's a strong word, gaslighting, but in the context of saying saying it's, oh, it's all fine, it's okay, when I'm not, the words I'm saying are perhaps what she wants to hear, or I think she wants to hear, but she can feel that it's not true. And because she's hearing what I think is the right thing to say, it's really unnerving for her nervous system, because in this essence, she's getting gaslit, right? So what we want to do is imagine if you've got 7 main emotions. I'll just use anger as an example. If you've got a cup and it's full of anger from the past, if something happens in your current reality it will very easily spill over. So what we need to do is tip a bit out, i.e. process the past, and that gives you more space. But also, if you allow that thing that we mentioned about stretching, you change your cup to a saucepan. But if this was full of liquid and you put that same amount of liquid into a saucepan, you've got more space. So you're going to be able to respond instead of react. Right? So it's twofold, getting out the stuff from the past, but also having tools and practices like the rage rave, which we're going to go into, to enable you to stretch your hose pipe. Yeah? Excellent. Right, so here we go. As I talked about, remaining calm is one of the superpowers, and the reason for that is, do people know about the chakras? So, yeah, we're a hippie festival, of course. Right, so there's a problem in the spiritual community, which I'm going to definitely shout out, is that lots of people are stuck in the higher chakras, right? Which is, don't worry, there's nothing wrong with that, no judgment, but this is all spirit, above the heart, and below the heart is matter. Okay, being in the love and light, it's a lovely place to be, but think of your body as got like a martini glass in it, right? So this bit, you're collecting energy at the top, but it can't go through you as much. So your dimmer switch on your light bulb can't shine as bright because the stem, you haven't felt the fear, the shame, the guilt, the stuff. So the energy can't move through you as freely as it wants to. So if you want to live the abundant life that is available to every single one of us, it's facing into the fear, the shame, and the guilt, which will open up, which will stretch your martini glass to a pipe. And then it will flow through you. And then through the practices, what I've talked about, you stretch your hose pipe, gets bigger, more energy moves through you, more freedom comes, your reality manifests much quicker, more abundance appears, etc., etc. Make sense? Okay, are you convinced to do the Freak Experience Part 2?
Yeah.
Are you? Come on, are you? Right. Okay, so in that, it's called the Freak Experience Part 2. I don't know what time it is. Do you know what time it is? 4:30. Bang on. All right. Sweet. There we go. So in the Freak Experience Part 2, which is Emotion Pit, and the DJ, he's not there anymore, which is great. He's over there. There he is. This is Bill, and we're about to do that. So I just give it a bit of a quick explanation, but we'll come back and I'll give it more of an explanation in it. But the Emotion Pit is a rage rave, and rage stands for radical access to greater energy, right? And the reason we get radical access to greater energy is because during that process, we're turning our martini glass into a pipe through a series of stuff a journey that Bill will take you on. I'll facilitate, he DJs, and the music is purposely meant to activate your nervous system, and then we'll all express it together. Most of it's done in silence, but there's a big bit at the end where we just have a massive rage together, okay? And you will feel Zen AF at the end of it, for sure. Okay, you with me?
Yeah.
Right, so water in, water out break, so 5 minutes. And come back. And tell everyone out there, if they want to come in, they're more than welcome. So that's been the Freak Experience Part 1. See you in Part 2.